Discover the incredible, life-changing secrets of Wild West survival during 6 harrowing winters. Clara Thompson felt the weight of that promise deep in her bones as the winds howled outside her little farmhouse in rural Kansas. The chill seeped into her skin, whispering memories of her late husband and the love they had built on this land. Alone now, with 2 spirited children, Charlie, with his wild curls and insatiable curiosity, and Sarah, whose laughter bubbled like a brook in spring, Clara trudged through the frozen fields daily, determined to keep her husband's dream alive, even as the muscles in her back ached with every shovel full of frostbitten earth. Each morning, she gathered kindling and stoked the fire, finding small joy in the warmth it brought. Her heart sank, however, as she glanced at the dwindling supplies in the barn. With winter's grip tightening, the horizon stretched bleak and unyielding. Just when hope felt like a fading ember, Clara discovered her late husband's secret: a hidden cache of supplies nestled between bales of hay. There, with dust dancing in the sunlight, she found bottles of dried beans, sacks of corn, and a few precious jars of preserved fruits. It was a flicker of hope amidst the relentless cold, an unanticipated gift from the man she had loved. But then, there were the neighbors, the wealthy folk who looked down from their polished perches, their laughter ringing hollow against Clara's struggle. Sneering at her mud-caked boots, they met her with narrowed eyes, judging her efforts to keep the farm alive. "A widow can't manage on her own," they whispered. The happy voices of their children contrasted sharply with Clara's reality, and an aching loneliness wrapped around her heart like the bitter winter winds. As days turned into weeks, Clara found herself wrestling with the isolation creeping into her bones. Whispers flew about her husband's heroism, stories of honor fetched from the telegrams that arrived after his death. Perhaps those tales could rekindle the sense of community that had been swept away by the early snowfall. But trust lay brittle, shattered by dirt and distrust. Clara contemplated pulling them together for a shared meal, to remind them all of their own humanity. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just when Clara thought she could gather those tattered threads of togetherness, another wave of snow fell, paralyzing the town. Vital supplies were sabotaged, as someone had taken to destroying barns in the night. The weight of betrayal pressed hard against Clara's chest, stealing both breath and hope. Sitting by the fire, her children's cheerful chatter muffled by despair, she fought back tears. Could she bring the shattered pieces of community together before the next storm tore them apart? In the stillness of the night, warmth flickered in Clara's heart. She knew they must share what little they had left. Accepting help was just as hard as giving it. As she glanced out toward the night sky, her mind buzzed with determination. But amidst that conviction, new threats lingered in the shadows. Clara stood on the brink of change, her heart yearning for unity, even as darkness coiled around the edges of her resolve. Could kindness overcome the hostility that threatened to consume them all? Clara woke with the sun filtering through the frostbitten windows, casting shards of light across the cabin. She felt old, every muscle in her body was tired from the weight of worry and sorrow. But for the children, she had to rise every day and face both the cold and the creeping isolation that tightened like a noose around her heart. "Mommy, can we go outside?" Charlie's voice chimed out, filled with a child's innocent energy, piercing the fragile silence of the morning. Clara managed a smile, grabbing her thick coat. "Let us bundle up and see what the snow has left for us." As they stepped outside, Charlie zigzagged through the fresh powder, leaving a trail of laughter in his wake. Sarah, bundled snugly against the chill, followed closely behind, her little arms flailing in delight. Yet, as Clara watched them, a knot twisted in her stomach. The relentless cold mirrored the walls that had grown around her heart. The weight of the neighbors' disdain clutched tightly, constricting her breath with every reminder of their wealth and isolation. Clara's determination flickered again. These children deserved more than this bleak winter. They deserved a community. Let us build a snowman. Charlie shouted, throwing a handful of snow in the air, as if wishing for a miracle. Clara's heart stirred. Perhaps a bonding over something joyful could chase the shadows away. With laughter and playful shouts, they stacked the snow into large mounds. Clara felt the warmth of joy spilling from within her as she joined them, her thoughts drifting back to happier days when laughter filled their home. They shaped the snowman, carrot for a nose and twigs for arms. For a fleeting moment, all felt right in the world again, but as the shadows lengthened, the laughter was lost. Clara noticed something. The horizon seemed darker than before. A squall was brewing, and hurry crept into her heart. Snowflakes began to dance down like spectral whispers, bringing a cold finger to press against her resolve. Charlie. Sarah. Inside quick. The command burst from her lips as worry transformed joy into urgency. The children rushed inside, their giggles fading into worried whispers, and Clara felt her composure shake. Winter was returning with vengeance. Later that evening, as Clara prepared a meager supper using what few supplies remained, a knock erupted at the door. Cold fear gripped her as she opened it to reveal Mrs. Henderson from the neighboring farm, her face pale and drawn. "Clara, we need your help. It's the O'Reillys. They're in trouble," she gasped between shivers. "Their barn collapsed under the weight of the snow, and the livestock, they're trapped." The offer to help the O'Reillys curled around Clara's heart, offering warmth in the cold. Yet dread clung to her. The same people who had judged her for her struggle now needed her reach. "All right," Clara said, determination pulsing through her veins. "Let us gather what we can and head over. We can't let them suffer alone." As they gathered supplies and warmth in the flickering candlelight, Clara felt a silent resolve form amongst them, a momentary light against the collective shadow of winter. They might be operating in distrust and suspicion, but survival necessitated unity. As they trudged through the falling snow, Clara's heart raced. Would helping the O'Reillys open the door to healing? Could this be what brings the community back together? But when they reached the O'Reilly farm, Clara's breath hitched in her throat. What she saw made her heart pound louder than the wind howling through the dark. The barn wasn't just collapsed, there was something about it that suggested sabotage. Could the whispers of hatred go deeper than she had thought? Clara stood at the threshold of uncertainty, her pulse quickening. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about facing the darkness lurking not just in the storm outside, but within the heart surrounding her. Clara took a step forward, her instincts grappling with the chilling shadow of doubt. What had happened here? The barn, once a sturdy relic of the O'Reillys' hard work, lay in a mangled heap of splintered wood and shattered dreams. The thick, frosty air filled her lungs, but it felt heavy, almost unbreathable. "Mrs. Henderson, look." Clara pointed at the broken beams. "This doesn't just happen from snow. It feels deliberate." Her voice trembled, a blend of fear and insight. "I can't believe anyone would." Mrs. Henderson paused, her eyes widening as realization dawned. "You don't think, do you? What's happening?" Charlie's small voice broke through the tension. His eyes darted between the adults, sensing the tremors in their voices. Clara knelt down, pulling him close. "Just stay behind me, okay? We're going to help." She tried to sound brave, but inside she felt the world shifting beneath her feet. A low whimper came from within the wreckage, echoing the fear growing in Clara's chest. Clara took another step forward, summoning courage from somewhere deep inside. If someone was capable of this, they wouldn't just attack a barn. They would turn their sights toward families, toward her children. "Let us check for the animals," Clara said, determination filling her voice. "We can't let them suffer because of someone else's rage." As they sifted through the debris, Clara's hands trembled. She dug and pried apart the wood, her fear morphing into hope. Mrs. Henderson began pulling boards aside, their urgency growing. Then, a faint bleat broke the silence, a goat trapped beneath a heavy beam. Clara's heart leaped as she rushed over, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "There you are, sweet girl." With the help of Mrs. Henderson, they lifted the heavy beam slowly, cautiously. The goat, startled yet grateful, stumbled out, nuzzling Clara's leg as if thanking her. A chill slipped down Clara's spine, threading through layers of anxiety. Rescuing a goat was one thing, but the thought of a child trapped or a family destroyed sat like a stone in her stomach. The fear of facing whoever had done this crashed heavily on her shoulders. "Is there anyone else?" Clara shouted, her voice lifted above the howling wind. "Over here." They heard a shout from another direction. Charlie, emboldened by the earlier rescue, pointed toward the back of the barn. "I saw a hen coop. There might be chickens." "Charlie, stay close," Clara called out, assessing the safety of the area. Together, they moved toward the sound. Inside the unstable structure, another large beam leaned precariously, almost mocking them with its threat. "I'll hold this while you grab them," Clara told Mrs. Henderson, who nodded. As they worked, Clara felt the weight of the past few months crashing against her like the snowstorm outside. Leaving the children alone, the loss of her husband, it all threatened to drown her. But strength surged from her desire to protect them. When they finally pulled free the last hen, Clara's heart soared, a fragile joy filling the gaps in her resolve. "We did it," she breathed, panting but fulfilled. But just then, a shadow moved at the edge of her vision. Clara whipped around to see a figure disappearing into the trees, cloaked in furtive movement and intention. "Did you see that?" she whispered to Mrs. Henderson, who nodded grimly. They weren't just dealing with an accident. Someone was watching, someone who did not want them to succeed. Clara's heart raced anew. How could she protect her children and mend the rift in the community when someone was willing to harm them all? "What do we do now?" Mrs. Henderson whispered, her face reflecting Clara's swirling apprehension, but the answer eluded Clara as shadows stretched long in the fading light. The wailing wind howled relentlessly beyond just winter's grip, it carried the echo of dangers unknown. Clara felt the pull of a new mission rising within her, calling for bravery she wasn't sure she possessed. But she had to confront this threat. "Let us get the O'Reillys," Clara said, resolve flooding back in waves. "We need to figure out what's really happening. Together, we'll face whoever is behind all this." As they stepped cautiously back into the swirling white, Clara's heart thundered with both fear and spark of defiance. She wouldn't let the storm take them down, she would fight back. But would they all be safe enough to see through the darkness? Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart as they stepped back into the swirling snow. The cold bite pierced through her coat, but it was nothing compared to the icy fear gripping her mind. Shadows danced behind her thoughts. What if they weren't alone out here? "Let us move quickly," Clara urged, her voice echoing in the seemingly desolate landscape around them. The dim light of dusk faded, leaving an eerie twilight. It felt as though the night was closing in, wrapping them in a cold embrace. They trudged through the snow, with Charlie in tow, his small boots crunching with each step. Clara glanced down at him, his face pensive, and she felt a wave of protectiveness. His blue eyes mirrored the storm brewing inside her. "We'll get through this. I promise," she whispered, squeezing his shoulder gently. As they approached the O'Reilly farmhouse, Clara's stomach twisted in knots. The porch light flickered uncertainly. Had anyone else noticed the shadow? Or were they simply trying to survive the winter, unaware of the lurking danger? "Just stay close, and let me do the talking," Clara instructed, her voice firm. Mrs. Henderson nodded, though uncertainty shadowed her features. The wooden door creaked open slowly, revealing Bill O'Reilly, his rugged face more haggard than Clara remembered. His blue flannel shirt was stained with remnants of long days spent laboring through bitter cold. "What brings you here at this hour?" he asked, a protective edge in his brow. "There's no time to explain the details," Clara said, glancing over her shoulder. The barn, it's been destroyed. We think it was intentional. Someone is out here watching us. Bill's expression hardened. Intentional? You think someone did this? Why? I don't know yet, but it didn't feel like an accident. I need your help, she pressed, hoping he could sense the urgency in her tone. The animals, they're safe for now, but there could be more trouble ahead. His instinct seemed to kick in as he straightened, scanning the white-covered horizon. All right, let me gather the family. We'll need everyone on this. Just as Bill stepped back into the house, Clara felt a shift in the air, a tension whip through her body. Her eyes flicked to the trees beyond the farmhouse. Had she seen movement again? A dark silhouette lurking just beyond the snow. Something's not right, Charlie said, his small voice trembling. Stay close, Clara ordered, her heart racing. Remember what I said about protecting one another? Moments later, Bill returned with his wife, Mary, and their 2 older boys. What do we need to do? Mary asked, the strength of her presence calming even through Clara's rising dread. First, we gather any supplies we can find. Food, blankets, anything that'll help us through the night, Clara said. Then we need to secure the barn area. With whatever happened tonight, we can't take any risks. They moved as one unit, a family bonded by necessity. Clara felt a flicker of hope rise within her. This community, though rattled, was ready to stand together. As they gathered supplies, the atmosphere shifted. The chill of the winter winds changed, the air thickening with anticipation. Clara couldn't shake the feeling someone was watching, lurking just out of sight. Once they secured the essentials, their next task loomed on the horizon: the barn. It would need reinforcements, protection against whatever threat awaited them. Let's take the pitchforks and lanterns, Bill advised, gathering the group closer. The worry lines etched deep into his forehead spoke volumes. We better be ready for anything. Clara held her breath, knowing deep down that the shadows weren't gone. They would have to face whoever or whatever had done this. But they wouldn't go into the night unprepared. When they reached the barn again, Clara felt a surge of determination. Fear might be lurking, but they had something stronger: each other. Just then, a twig snapped in the nearby woods, sending a jolt through Clara's body. Did you hear that? She froze, eyes darting toward the sound. Yes, Charlie whispered, gripping her hand tightly. The air was thick with dread, and Clara steeled herself. Whatever it is, she inhaled deeply, we are ready for them. But were they truly prepared for the dark secrets hidden in the woods? Clara caught the flash of uncertainty in Charlie's wide eyes as she gripped the lantern tighter, its flame flickering in the chilling breeze. She could feel the tension towering in the group, shadows stretching around them like lurking giants. Stay sharp, Bill murmured, his voice low but steady. Clara nodded, sharing a glance with each of her companions. They had the pitchforks and lanterns, but were they truly ready to confront whatever was hidden in the dark? As they inched toward the barn, the crunch of snow beneath their boots echoed in the stillness, amplifying Clara's pounding heart. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the bushes, sending a shiver down her spine. Clara halted, her breath caught in her throat. What was that? Mary asked, fear etched across her face. Could be an animal, Bill voiced, but wariness dripped from every word. Just then, another sound broke through, like a whisper carried on the wind. Clara strained to listen. It's coming from over there. She pointed toward a cluster of trees behind the barn, the branches swaying ominously. Let's check it out, Bill urged, leading the way. Along the path, Clara felt Charlie's little hand squeeze hers, reminding her of the stakes at play. Finally reaching the edge of the trees, they pushed through the thicket. Clara's breath came quicker, pulses of adrenaline fueling her determination. Shadows blended into shape, but nothing moved in the darkness. Stay here. I'll look closer, Bill said, and with that, he stepped into the obscurity, lantern held high. Clara felt like the world slowed, every heartbeat thundering in her ears. She caught herself holding her breath, praying for nothing to leap out at them. Moments passed. The darkness felt thicker, and as she stole a glance at Charlie, she saw fear etched into his little face. "What if something happens?" he whispered. "We're all together, Charlie," she said softly. "Nothing will happen to us." But even she felt the tremor in her own words. Then, the sharp clashing of metal against metal broke the frozen air. Clara's stomach dropped. Bill called out, "Get back!" Without thinking, Clara dashed forward, pulling Charlie with her, the pitchfork clutched tightly in her hand. What met her eyes was almost too surreal. Bill stood over something in the snow, a glinting object half buried, like a treasure hidden away. "Is it?" Mary questioned, stepping closer, skepticism evident in her tone. "It looks like a trap," Bill said, kneeling to examine it. "A bear trap, and it's been set recently." "Why would someone set a trap here?" Clara asked, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "Maybe to catch something for food or something worse," Bill replied, glancing around nervously. As they stood huddled together, the fear morphed into a fervent determination. They had to ensure this was the end of whatever threat loomed over them. "My place is secure," Bill said, looking each of them in the eye. "But we need to stick together. If someone's watching, we can't let them pick us off." Clara nodded firmly, understanding what was at stake. They weren't just protecting their own lives now, they were guarding their future, the homes they cherished in this harsh landscape. "I'll take the lead," she declared, heart pumping with resolve. "We need to set traps of our own and figure out who's behind this." But a voice in the darkness from the woods suddenly echoed back, low and menacing. "You shouldn't have come here." Clara's heartbeat quickened as they all turned to face the looming shadows beyond the tree-line, dread creeping back into the air around them. Who was it? Why were they so far from civilization, hiding in the dark? "Run!" Clara yelled, a storm of fear and adrenaline propelling them back toward the barn. Desperate to reach safety, she felt Charlie's hand slip from hers as he stumbled, the cold enveloping him. "Charlie!" Clara cried out, anguish rippling through her veins. But was it too late? Would the shadows reveal what lay beneath their perfect facade? In the frigid night, they could only pray they would find the strength to face whatever haunted there. Every step. The air felt thick with dread as Clara spun around, frantic to find Charlie. Her heart raced like a wild stallion, pounding against her chest as she scanned the darkness. "Charlie!" She screamed, her voice echoing into the hollow night like a desperate plea. Bill made a move to return, but Clara gripped his arm. "No! We need to stick together," she insisted, her voice shaky but firm. "We can't leave anyone behind." The shadows behind them shifted, the menacing voice still hanging in the air like a dark cloud above their heads. Panic began to suffocate her, but she forced herself to breathe. "We have to find him." "I'll check over here," Bill said, gesturing to the right. Clara nodded, but her mind churned, looking for a plan. She could feel Mary and the others close, but they all shared an unspoken fear. Clara plunged into the darkness where she had last seen Charlie, gripping her pitchfork tightly. It felt heavy in her hand, but it also felt comforting somehow, like it was a lifeline tethering her to the world. Ignoring the cold creeping into her bones, she praised herself for being strong. "Charlie!" There was only silence now, except for the soft crumpling of snow and her heartbeat in her ears. Clara took a few careful steps deeper into the thicket. She rounded a tree, its bark rough against her palm as she steadied herself. Then she saw him. He was crouching behind a thick bush, his small figure nearly invisible against the white backdrop, peeking out like a rabbit caught in the open. "Charlie!" "Mom!" Charlie whispered, his voice tremulous, terrified. "I thought I lost you." Relief washed over Clara, thick like a wave crashing over the shore, but just as quickly she felt the urgency again. "We need to move," Bill said to run. "No." Charlie shook his head wildly. "That's when the monster will get you." "Listen," she said, dropping to his level. "There's no monster. It's just someone trying to frighten us. We have to stick together. Can you trust me?" She looked into his wide eyes, seeing the faint glimmer of understanding spark to life. With a shaky breath, Charlie nodded, and Clara took his hand. They quickly retraced their steps, emerging into the open where the others were waiting, fear-stricken but determined. "What did you find?" Mary asked, her eyes darting around anxiously. "Just Charlie," Clara replied, relieved but holding back her own terror. "But we have to move. Someone is watching us." Just then, a snapping sound echoed from somewhere deeper in the woods. They all froze, hearts racing, the chill of fear creeping into their bones again. Clara's breath hitched, her protective instincts flaring up. "We can't linger here. If we're targets, we need a plan." Bill nodded, his jaw set firmly. "Back to the barn, we need to fortify it. We'll lay traps outside ourselves." "Right," Clara said, feeling a newfound determination. They all turned synchronized, like a well-rehearsed dance, staying close together. But as they hurried back toward the barn, the same menacing voice echoed through the trees, a cruel reminder of their hidden adversary. "You just made a big mistake." Clara felt an icy grip on her heart. They weren't alone, not at all. There was danger lurking just beyond the light, and the shadows were growing bolder. "Why are they doing this?" she thought, as her heart wrestled with fear and determination. Would their makeshift defenses be enough? They reached the barn doors, slamming them shut with a resounding thud, each sound carrying their hope for safety. But as Clara locked the door, her breath quickened again when she realized that the voice still taunted them, echoing like a dark promise of chaos yet to come. Clara turned to her friends, her heart aching for their safety. "We need to figure out who they are and why they're targeting us. We need to be ready." As she focused on each face around her, an unnerving thought struck her. What if this wasn't about survival alone? What if they were meant to face something more sinister? A sudden crash at the barn door snapped her out of her thoughts, the noise thunderous and undeniable. "Get ready. This isn't over yet." Clara's stomach churned as another crash resounded. How could they hope to fend off whatever lay outside? And just then, a creeping doubt wormed into her mind: would they emerge victorious, or would this be a night they would never forget? The crashes were relentless, echoing like the howl of a storm. Clara's heart thudded in her chest, drowning out everything else. She turned to the others, her eyes wide as she registered their tense expressions. "Get something to barricade the doors," she shouted, anxiety fueling her urgency. Mary rushed to the loft, quickly tossing down hay bales and anything else she could find. Bill and a couple of the others joined her, scraping chairs and wooden crates in front of the barn door, their muscles straining against the weight. Each shuddering thud against the wood reminded them of their vulnerability, and Clara could feel the perspiration starting to bead on her forehead. "Charlie, come here," she urged, kneeling to pull him close. She wanted to shield him, to wrap him up tight in her arms, but she knew fears could seep into the calmest of hearts. "Look at me," Clara whispered, forcing a smile even though her own heart raced. "Remember what we talked about? We're stronger together. We'll get through this." "Mom, what if they get in?" Charlie trembled, digging his fingers into her jacket. "They won't," Clara said, squeezing his hand. She glanced toward the door, where Bill and Mary shouted to one another amid the chaos. "Not if we stand strong. We're a team, right?" Suddenly, a voice cut through the panic again, sharper than before. "You can't hide forever. The darkness will swallow you whole." The word sent a shiver down Clara's spine. She had to focus. "Mary, check the windows. Make sure they're secure, Clara commanded. As Mary scrambled up the nearby ladder, the others continued to push against the door, their determination palpable. Clara tried to steady her breathing, reminding herself that she needed to be the anchor for Charlie and everyone else. Look, buddy, if we make it through this, there'll be stories to tell, right? Adventures we'll remember. Charlie nodded, though his face was pale and drawn. In an instant, the barn door rattled violently, like it was just a whisper away from breaking free. Bill's muscular shoulders sunk with the weight of anxiety. How much longer can this hold? He shouted. Clara's mind raced. I don't know. But we need a backup plan. What if she paused, considering their options? What if we try to get into the loft? It might give us a better vantage point. Good idea, Mary responded, sliding down the ladder. We can keep watch. If it's just one of them, then we still have a chance. Clara finished, her voice growing stronger as hope flared in her heart. As they swiftly reorganized, Clara felt weight in every heartbeat. Up in the loft, they could see far beyond the barn, the shadows lurking and creeping like beasts waiting for a feast. But she needed more than eyesight, she needed courage, something to assure her that they wouldn't be overrun. Then, without warning, the door splintered beneath one menacing blow. The air rushed out of Clara's lungs as she clutched Charlie tighter. Get ready! She yelled, pulling everyone close. But then, an unsettling calm settled over the barn. The outside thumping ceased, and a dreadfully charged silence filled the air. Something's not right, Bill murmured, his breath heavy. Clara's instinct screamed that the worst was yet to come. The looming question twisted in her mind: what had they really unleashed by coming here? With hearts racing, they all peered down at the breach, eyes wide with terror, ready to confront whatever waited just beyond the threshold. In that chilling stillness, Clara knew this was just the beginning. The real battle was shaping up to be much darker than any of them could have imagined. As she gripped the pitchfork with white-knuckled intensity, a thought struck her: what if they had unwittingly become part of a greater game, a sinister twist of fate they had yet to fully comprehend? A guttural growl rumbled from the darkness beyond the barn door, cutting through the silence like a knife. Clara's heart froze as the sound reverberated in her bones, a dark reminder of the very danger they faced. She instinctively tightened her grip on Charlie, who was trembling beside her, his tiny frame shaking with fear. Everyone, stay quiet. She whispered harshly, but her own voice felt fragile against the powerful unknown lurking out there. The air felt electric, charged with uncertainty, as shadows flitted across the narrow bands of light filtering through the slats of the barn. Bill adjusted his grip on the crude barricade, his knuckles white, while Mary craned her neck to catch a glimpse of what lay waiting for them in the crescent of darkness. We need to know what we're up against, Mary whispered, searching the loft for a solid weapon. Clara nodded, her mind racing. What if it was just one of them, an animal, a lone intruder? The thought sparked a flicker of hope. Grab that pitchfork, Mary, Clara urged, nodding toward a tool leaning against the wall. If it comes to it, we'll need everything we can get to defend ourselves. Mary swiftly grabbed the pitchfork and turned to face the door, eyes sharp with determination. I'll handle the first swing if it gets through. Don't act rash, Bill said, his voice low but firm. We need a plan. Before Clara could respond, the barn door screeched again, this time shaking violently as if the ground itself was quaking underneath. The soft thud of something heavy pressing against it echoed in her mind, and the thought of what lay beyond made a cold sweat creep down her back. Maybe it'll just give up, Charlie said, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara could see the flicker of hope in her son's eyes, and the sight washed over her with resolve. Maybe, but we have to be prepared. That's the only way we can face it together, she replied, mustering every ounce of strength to keep the fear from creeping into her voice. Suddenly, the wooden door strained and buckled as if waging a fierce battle against whatever force was trying to break through. It creaked ominously, and Clara felt a surge of adrenaline. Now! Everyone, hold the door. The group huddled at the entrance, placing pressing hands against the wood as the pressure mounted. The sounds of growling grew closer, menacing and near. Clara's heart raced with each sound, each moment stretching into eternity. Just then, a loud crack split the tension, and light poured through a sudden gash that opened in the door as it splintered. Clara's breath caught in her throat. There, shadowy and hulking, a figure emerged. But before they could comprehend it lunged. "Get back!" Clara screamed, shoving Charlie behind her. They braced for impact, but just before the figure reached them, another force of nature burst through. "Mom! Look out!" Charlie cried, his voice piercing through the chaos. Clara's gaze flickered, horror washed over her as realization took hold. The grip on her pitchfork trembled in her hand. Was this a new ally or something far worse? The figure crashed into the barn, revealing gnashing teeth and glowing eyes, and it was just the beginning of their nightmare. As her heart raced, Clara knew one thing: they had unwittingly sparked a darkness that hunted them, something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. But what lay on the other side of the threshold? And who or what was lurking with them in the barn? The creature stumbled in, its weight displacing old straw and dust. Clara's heart hammered against her chest as she tried to make sense of the abomination standing before her. It wasn't just one shadow, it was several, flickering like candles in a tempest. The figure shifted, and she caught a glimpse of feral eyes, reflecting the dim light like shards of glass. "Stay behind me," she shouted, her instincts kicking into high gear. Bill pushed forward, gripping the pitchfork like a lifeline. The adrenaline rushed through him, but there was fear too, fear of the unknown, fear that something inside the barn was no longer just a figment of their imaginations. "Clara!" Mary yelled, fear lacing her voice. "It looks wounded." The creature faltered, its growls more like whimpers now. Clara's heart softened for a split second. Was it really an enemy? Had it come here seeking help? But just as quickly as the thought entered her mind, more shadows lurked at the barn's threshold, joining the first in a swirling mass of terror. "It's not alone," Bill warned, eyes darting around. The tension grew palpable. They were a band of misfits trapped against a rising tide. Clara couldn't think. "Charlie, go hide now," she ordered, urgency sharpening her voice. But before he could move, a low rumble, almost like thunder, echoed in the distance. The barn shifted again under the weight of the approaching creatures. "Mom, I can help," Charlie protested, his false bravado failing to mask his shaken voice. "No. You need to listen. This isn't a game." The first creature roared again, a bone-chilling sound that rattled Clara to her core. It lunged toward them, its mouth snapping open, aimed to crush and devour. Bill thrust the pitchfork forward, catching it in the side. The beast screeched, a harsh, nightmarish sound that filled the barn with an echo of agony. Clara's breath caught, and she felt time freeze. The creature fell back, pain evident in its eyes, revealing something almost human beneath the threat of wild desperation. "Wait!" she shouted, disbelief coursing through her. "It's hurt. We can't just..." But another creature charged in, this one larger, more monstrous, its growl reverberating with anger and possession. Clara instinctively backed away, pushing Charlie further behind her. The barn was now a chaotic frenzy of fury and fear, each second brimming with uncertainty. "Get it out. We will fight," Bill shouted, determination flooding his veins. Yet Clara felt the churning sense of dread. "We can't kill it." But the second creature loomed ever closer, ready to assert its dominance. Adrenaline surged. Clara felt as if her entire world hinged on the moment. A deafening snap broke the tension as Clara's pitchfork plunged forward again, only this time, it wasn't clear who would be hitting who. Their eyes locked, the creatures demanded something more of her. They weren't monsters, they were desperate beings caught in their own dark dance of survival. Clara wrestled with the morality of the situation, knowing that if she took a life tonight, there might be no coming back for her. And then a thought sparked in her mind: if they fought, the battle would only escalate. But what if they could find a way to coexist, to understand the darkness that drove them all into this moment? "Bill, wait," she pleaded, but the urgency was growing cold. The larger creature advanced, and Clara realized the time for hesitation was nearly over. Stand back. Someone had to take action. But was she ready for this gamble? Could the bond of desperation unite them against a common threat? Or would it simply lead to their demise? Months of survival instincts, honed by fear and uncertainty, rippled through Clara. She had to confront the darkness within herself before it consumed them all. With the growling shadows closing in, she inhaled deeply, her heart thudding wildly in her chest. "Let us find another way." The air grew thick with tension, each creature's breath visible in the dim light. Clara felt the weight of their intertwined fates pressing down. Would they survive the night? Or would they become just another tragic tale of failure? As she stood at the threshold, fear and hope mingled within her, creating a storm of possibility. It was clear that the world outside and inside the barn was about to change forever. What awaited her on this treacherous road? And was she truly ready to unlock the mystery hidden within the shadows? The night stretched on, like a canvas filled with uncertainty, shadows cast against the frail walls of the barn. Clara's heart raced as she stood poised between survival and compassion. The creatures before her, wild and untamed, were not the unthinkable monsters she had feared, they were a reflection of desperation, much like her own. A silent plea danced fearlessly in her gaze, breaking down the barriers of preconceptions. "Listen!" Clara shouted, her voice ringing clear and steady. "We don't want to hurt you. We just want to help." Bill's grip on the pitchfork tightened, uncertainty churning inside him like a storm. The air thickened with tension, a bridge between two worlds, the one of fear and the one of understanding. The creatures paused, cautious, snouts twitching as they sniffed the air. One creature stepped forward, its eyes reflecting a mix of pain and judgment. Clara saw that its injury was deeper than just a physical wound, it was anguish, a longing for connection. "Please," Clara whispered, her voice softening, "this isn't how it has to be." The growls simmered, the creatures shifting, waiting. Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward, her hands raised in surrender. She had to show them they were not threats. The reaction was instantaneous. A ripple of energy coursed through the barn, as if time had paused to witness the transformation swirling around them. "We just want to survive like you," Clara continued. "Help us to protect what we love." Joining Clara, Bill lowered the pitchfork, a silent agreement dancing between them. The second creature held its ground, muscles tense, yet something flickered in its wild eyes: curiosity. With trembling determination, Clara moved closer to the nearest creature, her heart hammering in her chest. "Please. Show us we can be allies. Let us heal one another." As if drawn by her plea, the first creature took a cautious step forward, closing the distance. Clara could see the glint of fear dissipating, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Then, the moment bloomed. The injured creature nuzzled Clara's hand tentatively, testing the scent of something unknown. Clara's heart swelled as she felt its warmth against her skin. Slowly, she pressed her palm against the wild beast, feeling the heartbeat beneath. "Charlie, come here," she called gently, her voice soothing, remembering the child who needed her to be brave. Charlie stepped out from behind her, eyes wide as he caught the glimpse of unity unfolding. Clara grinned as she watched her son inch closer, his small hands reaching out to touch the creature, who now seemed less like a monster and more like a friend. The others joined in, their skepticism fading, replaced by a shared understanding. Within moments, the barn transformed from a fortress of fear to a sanctuary of hope. Clara felt a swell of courage pulse through her. They were all more alike than different. Outside, the storm raged on, deafening the world they once knew. But here, inside this barn, there was an awakening, a realization that together, they could create their own haven amidst chaos. As the night wore on, Clara understood that this was only the beginning. They would forge a new community, open their hearts to fierce possibilities, and rebuild what had been lost. No longer would they be just survivors, they would be warriors of compassion, defenders of care. The creatures slowly relaxed as they nuzzled against Clara and her children, their wild spirits finding solace in this shared moment of truth. And in that warm embrace, Clara saw the flicker of community ignite before her. They could begin to heal the fractures not just between humans and animals, but among each other. With a tear glimmering in her eye, Clara whispered, "Together, we will face whatever comes next." The night may still swirl with uncertainty, but now warmth radiated within the promise of connection. An empowering realization settled in their hearts: they could emerge not just strong enough to weather the storms, but together as a family forged in love and understanding. In that single moment, Clara understood. This land, once darkened by grief, now held the possibility of new life, a precious hope growing in the light of community. As dawn broke through the barn's worn windows, Clara felt the weight lift. They would wake to a new day, united by the light breaking through the shadows they had fought to escape. Love, warmth, and resilience would guide them through. And so, with a heart full of hope, Clara whispered to the others, "Let us begin again." You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the journey alive. Don't wait not even one more second to comment your thoughts and reactions about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The power of community starts with you.